time now for the Autumn Miles Show. Hey, guys. It is your girl, Autumn Miles, back with a brand new episode of the Autumn Miles Show. Okay, here's the thing. We're going to switch things up and we're going to do things a little bit different this week. I have been told I should do these reaction videos, and I'm probably going to start doing them. But I'm going to play for you a video that I did on Instagram 14 weeks ago. Okay, 14 weeks ago. And people are still interacting with this video. It talks about God's justice. And I want you guys to listen to it. And then I want to talk about it for a minute. So we're going to play it. God told me one time in my quiet time, I saw it all. I saw it all. I saw everything. The beautiful thing about God is that he sees absolutely everything. Nothing is hidden from his sight. And he told me that in a situation when I was dealing with a Judas type thing. And my urge was to pick up the phone and call everybody and explain things and try to, I don't know, talk to people about it. And when God said that, I saw it all, Autumn. It gave me immediate peace because I knew that he was going to handle it for me. Listen, God is a God of justice. Where you would let something go, he will not let it go. When I've studied the term justice in scripture, it means he is passionately in love with justice for his children. So if you're facing a situation where there is a Judas type situation, God saw it. God saw it. And he wants to make it right in his time and in his way. You can trust him. Okay, here's one thing that video said to me. There are places in God that we all don't understand, and one of them is the justice of God. The enemy wants us to take justice into our own hands. He wants us to get it for ourselves because it takes it away from God, and God will get holistic justice for his kids. Because that video had so many comments and so many shares, and I mean, literally every day I go to my social, and that's my socials, and that's what's been interacted with. I want to remind you, I wrote this really cool book called Holy Ghosted, and there is an entire chapter about God's justice. And I'm going to replay that episode of the Autumn Miles Show for you today, because it's worth, if you've already heard it, listen to it again. It's worth rehearing. In my 24 years of being passionate about the Lord and studying his word every day and being in his word all the time and praying and learning and getting my master's degree and going to Bible college and all the stuff that I've done, what God showed me about his justice was new. To the point where when I'm writing this chapter about God's justice, I am in tears because of what the Bible actually says about those people that betray us or sin against us. It fascinated me, and it grew my, it just put me with a new understanding of who God is for us. So we are going to run this episode of Holy Ghosted, the podcast series that I did when Holy Ghosted came out. And also go get the book. I know some of you have not ordered for whatever reason, but this book about Job has had legs and it's gone all over the place. And I'm getting messages from everywhere, but it is opening up people's eyes to these really challenging places in God where they think, wow, I didn't realize that God was doing that, or I didn't realize that he was answering me like that, or I didn't realize how honest I could be with God, or whatever that is. So we're going to replay this video and I will be back next week. I'm going to start a new series next week. It's going to be good. You're going to love it. But for this week, I really want to sit in the truth of the justice of God and what does that actually mean?
Hey, hey, guys, it's your girl. We are back for a very super duper fun conversation with my friend, Rick Walker. Let me set this up for you. This is going to be a part 2 of Holy Ghosted. We got into an intense conversation last week, which, by the way, I love intense theological conversations. I think they're so fun. But he is, so Rick has been in my life for a long time. He gave me my big break in radio. And we had a show, which was so fun, that we co-hosted. We did a lot of banter back and forth and interviewed authors and like had people on and all this kind of stuff. And he interviewed me for I Am Rahab on my own radio show when I went to Salem. And he also interviewed me for Gangster Prayer in 2019, whenever that one was released. And I cannot think of anyone better that's known me longer, that is so good with radio and just, just the presence and knowing everything, to come on and interview me than Rick Walker. So welcome back to the show, Rick.
It's an honor, and at least this time you didn't introduce me as your old friend, but I am feeling it. It was 11 years ago, I guess, that we were in radio in Dallas.
I
So,
know.
oh man,
Those days were fun.
they were awesome. They were awesome. So
They are so
we left the last show with the cliffhanger question. Should
Yes,
we
we
start
did.
there, or do you want to start with the you talked about the adoption. Like, I knew you when you were adopting 2 kids, and that was so crazy to me because you had to, and you were talking about it, going, we're thinking about adopting, and you had one, and then another one. I'm like,
I
how
know.
do you do it?
Do
That was
you
crazy.
remember those twins that we interviewed? What were their names? The brothers,
Jason Benham
the
and
Benham brothers.
the Benham brothers. Yeah. Jason. Yeah. And
Do you remember interviewing them with me that day at
oh yeah.
Power FM? Okay. So it was that day. And this, God brought this to me this morning when I was flat ironing my new bob. I remembered, I have a very distinct memory because I knew that a couple days before, God had told me in my own quiet time, you're going to adopt a boy and you're going to name him Moses. I was on high alert.
That's cool.
That morning, we had gotten email from the adoption agency saying that the birth mother of a baby boy just walked in. She wants to talk to you this afternoon.
Wow. Wow.
And I had to go to the station and I recorded with you. And I was like, I don't even remember what we talked about because I'm like, I don't care. I just want to get this over with. I could potentially be getting a baby boy. And that afternoon is when Moses's birth mother called us and asked us to be Moses's parent. Isn't that crazy?
That is, and I remember y'all being so excited, and I was scared for you. I thought, wait, you're adopting a baby, and then like a month later, I'm adopting another baby.
Another baby.
Wait, 2 babies. Okay, good for you.
I think everyone. Well, remember when we got scammed, Rick?
Yes.
Do you remember that?
Yes.
My people know about that story, but Rick would you witnessed that in real time.
Yeah.
We were going to adopt the twin girls and then we got scammed. And so that's so crazy. I remember getting that call, and then it was the next day that we got the call about Haven. And I know you were one of those that was like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
you already have 2 kids. You're going to adopt 2?
So I was one of Job's friends to you going, just curse God and die. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
But no, I know you are. But yeah, you knew us and you knew us I've known you longer than I've known Moses and Haven.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's how
But
old we are.
I hate, this is your show, the Autumn Miles show, but I am privileged to ask you about your book, Holy Ghosted, which, by the way, is amazing, and it's taking on some very hard spiritual truths that in the last episode we talked about that there are some hard truths that I've had issues with. And I asked you a very hard question because
Yeah,
I've heard
thanks.
many preachers preach on this. I've heard many sermons. I've even preached on Job. And I've heard several preachers kind of give this thin veneer of cotton candy sweetness of, hey, Joe won in the end because he had more cows. He had more, he had more livestock. He had, and that was a success and that was victory. And in my heart, it just broke my heart. And seeing my wife go through the loss of her son, he was 27
Ugh.
and my stepson 8 years ago, I've never seen such heartbreak than a parent losing a child, let alone 10. Job lost 10 instantaneously, and I can't swallow this thin veneer of cotton candy that goes, "Oh, but he won. What a sweet victory." And in the back of my head, Autumn, I'm going, he lost. This is a trauma. This is a heartbreak. This is a tragedy. I don't care how many cattle he had at the end of the book. It doesn't replace, I wouldn't take all the tea in China for one of my kids, let alone 10.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is a hard question, Autumn.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people leave the faith through pain, or they don't come to Jesus, or they
Yeah.
don't come to God because of this theological question. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Why did God allow? And that's the hard cliffhanger question that we left hanging. And so help me out here, clear the air.
Well, here is the short answer. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyone that says that they know,
It rains on the just and unjust.
anyone that says that they fully know
Mm.
why God allows this to happen, they don't know. They
Yeah.
don't know. They
Yeah.
just in their own human mind, they have to use all things work together for good. They have to use that somewhere in their sermon so that they can reconcile the fact that God does allow hard things. And this is what I was talking about. We have got to acknowledge the fact that your wife lost her son is hard. Period. But here is one of the things that I get so frustrated because it is incomplete theology when people say, well, God allowed this for whatever. God restored, Lord, give me the wisdom here. This is one of the things that I love about the text. God understood grief. He understood that what Job was experiencing, probably no one else on earth had ever experienced something so painful. So with the grief, he allowed Job the freedom to process as ugly as he had to process in order to tell God exactly how he felt. One of the, most of the book is Job telling God how mad he is at God and how frustrated he is at God for what God has allowed to happen in his life. This is one of the verses that is just so incredibly, just bold that he says, Job 31:35 says, "Oh, that I had one to hear me," stating right there, God's not listening to me. This is Job speaking. "Oh, that I had one to hear me. Behold, here is my signature." And then he gives God a challenge. "Let the Almighty answer me.
Mm-hmm.
And the indictment which my adversary has written, surely I would carry it on my shoulder. I would bind it to myself like a crowd." He says right there, bring it on, Almighty, bring it on. And listen, God knows that there are spaces in our life that you probably will never know why God allowed your wife's son to pass on the way that he did. And that is the thing that we have. Some things are ugly truths about God that we just have to trust that God knew exactly what he was doing. But we can't put lipstick on something that is incredibly hard for our human brain to understand. And
Yeah.
that's where I get frustrated.
I want,
Sometimes,
yeah,
go ahead,
go
go
ahead.
ahead, go ahead. I just say,
Well, I want to deep dive something you said, and it's basically being honest with God.
yes,
And I have to say, when I went through immense pain and when my wife, people, we maybe have this, oh, I can't question God. I can't be honest with God. Talk about that because you were kind of going there.
mhm,
And I want to do a deep dive because a lot of people are in pain. They're in their cars and they are screaming at God.
yeah.
They are questioning God. And then they go, is that right? Help us out here.
I think this is one of the biggest lies the enemy has ever sold the church, and we have bought it hook, line, and sinker. He has told the church through incomplete theology it is okay to be dishonest with God.
Wow. Yeah.
It is okay. If you're going to lie to anyone, lie to God about how you feel.
Yeah.
If you're going to lie to anyone, don't lie to your husband. Thou shalt not lie. But with God, you lie like your life depends on it. This is the crap that
Yeah.
Satan has fed the church.
Mm.
Do not be honest with God. You're mad at God. You better not tell him. He'll strike you dead. I mean, have you read the book of Leviticus? God is going to be so mad at you. And here we are in our puffed up podiums telling our people, if you're truly honest, now, of course, they would never say that straight to your face, but there is this anger theology that if you're truly honest with God, he's going to come in and he's going to wipe you out and he's going to be mad at you and he's going to cut you off. And let me tell you something. If God says to us through David, I desire truth in the inward parts, you desire truth
Mm.
in the
Yeah.
inward parts, and there you'll make me know wisdom. Why would God on our worst day want us to lie to him that we don't understand him, we're mad at him, and we don't understand why he would allow something so tragic to happen in our lives? This is what I'm talking about. God has to be welcomed into these hard places in him. And I remember one time I was driving, this story's in the book. I remember one time I was driving and I just got this horrible rejection. I mean, I'm rejected all the time over here and I'm fine with it now. But that day I had just got my rejection for this opportunity that looked like it was going to go my way. And I got in my car. I just needed to get out of my house because I was like, oh my gosh, everything in here is making me mad. Like even my coffee pot was making me mad that morning. And I got in my car and I drove off and I started praying in my car, and I was the weakest, most pathetic prayer ever. Hey, God, so you know what happened, whatever. And I remember the Holy Spirit starting to speak to me, and he said, how do you feel about that? And I said, I mean, I'm fine. I know you'll turn it into something good. I mean, I'm fine, whatever. I'm fine. And God stopped me, and I was over here downtown Dallas, I-30. It was terrible traffic that day, but the traffic for some reason was incredibly comforting to me because it made me actually have this conversation with God. And God spoke to me so loudly, and he said, that is not how you really feel. How do you feel about me right now? I can take it.
Hmm.
And this is going to make me cry right now. And I just started weeping, and I said, I am so mad at you. I have been so faithful to you for so long. I have clung to your word I love your word. I love your spirit. I love everything about you. Could you not have just given this to me? I've been waiting for this.
Hmm.
And the Holy Spirit, it was as if he said, thank you.
Wow.
Now
Wow.
I can minister to you.
Mm.
And with that, he said, there it was a very intimate conversation, but basically, I know you don't understand. And he began to speak to me about my future and where I was going and all this kind of stuff. But all I wanted to do in that moment was lie to God about how I felt. And all he wanted to do was minister to me with how I felt about him.
Yeah.
And I think this is so missing in the church. And this is why when something like what happens to your wife's son happens, we're like, well, all things still work together for good for those who love God. Really? Let me, are you kidding me? Anyone that said that to her, I apologize on behalf of the entire church. Um, we have got to sit with these people like Jesus did and wept at Lazarus' tomb and have
Mm.
compassion when things happen and really say we don't understand. There is a facet of God that we haven't been introduced to yet that does understand this, but we in our human dimension, we don't understand. We'll never understand. And we might not ever understand until we're staring into the face of Jesus why this happened. We have got to start being true about these hard places because you know what? When we project a bad theology about this kind of stuff, people leave the faith
Yeah. Yeah.
because they're like, I don't want to listen to that crap. You don't
Right.
understand how hard this was for me. You don't understand what it's like to go through a divorce when I've been married for 45 years and my husband cheating on me for whatever. I just heard that story that just happened. You don't understand what it's like, when my son will never come back to Jesus. You don't understand what it's like. The pain is real and we've got to sit. How do we know what God thinks? We look at Jesus. What did he
Mm.
do? He did not say, well, I am going to make everything turn out for your good. He sat and he wept and he was humble rather than trying to come up with some plastic phrase that doesn't help anyway. The ministry of the Holy Spirit will always be more powerful than the
Yeah.
ministry from the
Yeah.
pulpit because he knows what we need, not
Spot on.
what we're saying.
Yeah. 100% spot on. Wow. Autumn Miles, Holy Ghosted. The book is available anywhere you can buy a book. So, I'm just enjoying this. So random Rick ADD moment here. I was thinking about are you allergic to poison ivy?
I am not.
Okay.
My
If
husband is severely
Okay.
allergic.
So Eddie will appreciate this because he'll understand. I was just so allergic to poison ivy. I would get it all and it would swell my eyes shut. It torments you night and day, and you just wanna keep scratching and and they go, "Don't scratch it, do the." And I remember, Autumn being so itchy and driving me crazy. I thought I was gonna go crazy. I literally got a knife from the kitchen door and just started scraping
Oh
back
my
and forth.
gosh.
And when I started scraping the itch, I'm like, "Oh, oh," I wasn't cutting but I was literally scraping because the itch was driving me nuts. Now that is so small that was just a little poison ivy and I was over it in a few days. Job was sitting there in
Mm,
such immense pain. It said he
mhm,
took pot shards and literally was cutting himself because of the boils.
mhm,
And now I can't possibly
mm,
relate to Job's pain. I've had pain. I've had poison ivy. Ooh, and it was a butter knife. You're just scraping back and forth because it brought such relief and calm on it. But my goodness, I can't imagine being in such fit. But a lot of people have been in such
mhm.
physical pain.
Yeah.
And this brings me to my question because I think there's confusion, and I want to
Mm,
ask clarification because we hear about we have Christianese. We have a lot of Christian terms. We go, you'll hear someone say, pray a hedge of protection.
mhm.
And I won't have to get the butter knife and scratch my poison ivy because I have a hedge of protection. And it's like, I, we go through pain. We go through trials. We go through immense times of silence and trials.
Mhm,
But how does hedge of protection play into this? Because I hear about it and I hear,
mhm.
well, pray a hedge of protection and clarify that doctrinal issue when we talk about this hedge.
I love this idea of the hedge of protection, and now that you brought it up, let me read about it. Okay. Um, and then I'll explain. I'll explain. The Lord said to Satan, 1:8, Job 1:8, the Lord said to Satan, have you considered my verse, Job? This is the first pass that Satan is allowed to make at Job. Have you considered my servant Job? For there is no one like him on the earth, a blameless and upright man, hearing God and turning away from evil. Then Satan answered the Lord and said, does Job fear God for nothing? Have you not made a hedge about him and his house? Now, this is what I want to bring this up. And his house and all that he has on every side. You have blessed the work of his hands, and his possessions have increased in the land. But put forth your hand now and touch him and all that he has, and he will surely curse you to your face. Okay. Satan is the one who brings up hedge of protection, not God.
Hmm.
And this, reading this was so fun. I wrote this in the Arboretum in Dallas, and you can walk through the Arboretum in Dallas if you've ever been there. Rick, I don't know.
Beautiful.
Have you ever been there?
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Oh my goodness, it is amazing. And I go there every once in a while to pray and write, and like we go for Christmas to see the Christmas stuff and everything. And I went there to write this chapter because of all the hedges.
Hmm.
And this is like the most beautiful gardeny arboretum that you've ever seen. And they're the most beautiful flowers that you've ever seen, and everything, but everything is protected by a hedge. And when I looked up hedge, and just was thinking through hedge, this is what Satan says. Satan brought it up, not God. God did not say, I have protected him. Satan said, have you not made a hedge about him,
Hmm.
his house, all that he has on every side? Which tells me this hedge of protection that your grandma talked about, and that we're told to pray over our kids and all that kind of stuff. The enemy can see.
Hmm.
He can see this protection. Now, what it looks like, I don't know, but it's definitely big enough to stop him.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, it is so strong, he cannot penetrate it. The beautiful thing about Satan bringing this up is that when this is kind of like one of those like rhetorical questions, have you considered my servant Job? God knew that Satan had considered Job. And the reason we know that is because Satan said, you made a protection around him, his house, all that he has on every side, which tells me this. Satan had studied the hedge.
Hmm.
He knew
Yeah.
if he could get in, he knew where there was a weak point, and he had tried before. He had tried to get he tried to hurt him. He had tried to hurt his house. He had tried to hurt everything he had on every side. He had tried. So he had considered Job before, which is so interesting that dialogue, and knowing that Satan knew exactly how thick and impenetrable the hedge is. So when this is something that we can take from that, when God says he is our protection, Psalm 91, and he talks about him giving his angels charge over us and hiding us in his wings and his pinions and stuff like that. We have a hedge that has been measured by Satan himself to see how and when and where he can get in. He knows the breadth of it. He knows the depth of it. He knows the width of it. And he knows that it is stronger than him. So in order for it to, him to penetrate it, it has to be removed. Now, this is the scary part, and this is why everybody hates Job. Just like Satan had measured the hedge, God had measured the height, width, breadth, and depth of Job's faith.
Hmm. Wow. Yeah.
I don't want you to miss that. God had measured the height, width, depth, of Job's faith. And let me say this, let me submit to this to you, Rick. Job hadn't done that.
Hmm.
Job didn't know. Satan didn't know. You know why Satan didn't know? Because of this. He says, but put forth your hand on him now and touch all that he has, and he will surely curse you to your face. Satan had no idea the height, depth, width of Job's faith, but God, the only one who had access to his faith, knew how strong it was. So, because of that, God said, okay, I'm going to remove a portion of it. The portion that was removed, and we know from the story, the portion that was removed is horrible, but it was not more painful than the structure, the
Hmm.
foundation, and the integrity of Job's faith.
Yeah.
And this is a point that I have to make about the hedge. I have to make it. I don't know what it is that you have been allowed to go through. My family and I have faced severe, horrible things. And every time I hear and feel and know that that hedge, that God has allowed a hedge to be removed based on my study and the theology that the book of Job preaches, I know this: God has measured my faith and it is deeper than what I'm facing.
Mm. Yeah.
I don't even know how deep it is. You want to know when Job found out how deep his faith was? When he went through this and he didn't curse God. Do you want to know when Satan found out how deep Job's faith was? When God baited the great baiter and won. The only one that knows how deep your faith is God. And if he is allowing something in your life, then your faith is sturdy enough, even though you don't feel sturdy, even though you don't feel weak, it is sturdy enough to sustain with his power and show Satan just how strong he was. The only thing that Satan wanted, he didn't want his stuff. He didn't want his kids. He didn't want his money. He didn't want any of those things. That was a means to an end. What Satan wanted was the one thing that he couldn't have, Rick. Satan wanted Job to surrender his faith.
Yeah.
It's the only thing that lasts.
Hmm.
It's the only thing that stays. It's the only thing that's eternal. It's the only thing that pleases God. Without faith, it is impossible to please God. It is the most precious item that you have, and he can't steal it. He can't kill it. He can't destroy it. But if you surrender it, he has it.
Wow, this is deep and time is flying. I have another deep question, but I think we need to shift gears, and
Okay.
I'm going to do some rapid questions, and you do brief responses just to kind of lighten it up a little bit
Okay.
about the book. The book, by the way, Holy Ghosted. My good friend Autumn Miles. It's available basically anywhere you buy a book. Holy Ghosted, and it's inspiring. It tackles a lot of deep questions a lot of people have asked and have had for years, me included. So, okay, just real quick, rapid fire, Autumn. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. High, low. What was the high of writing this book and the low?
Wow. That's actually a hard question. I think the low was just going through a Job season. I think when we were writing this, um, I, it's almost as if God's like, your faith is sturdy, but I'm gonna show you how sturdy it is. When you write this, that would be the low. The high would be the wisdom, and I would say the theological challenge it was to me to reconcile some of these questions and to actually come out with an answer from God's word through the example of Job. I had a lot of aha moments. I had a lot of moments studying the Bible as long as I've had. Very student of the Word of God. I had a lot of moments where I said, "Oh my gosh, if I would have known that 10 years ago, I would have thought of that differently." You know what I mean? So I think just the awakening in me spiritually was the greatest high.
Okay, that was good high, low. What about this is a hard one too. Favorite chapter?
Justice. Justice is my favorite chapter.
Yes. As an attorney, I commend you.
I
Justice.
want to talk about justice if we have time.
Well, let's make that our next question.
Okay.
We'll talk about that. Justice. Okay, good. Wow, good. Okay, hardest chapter.
Oh gosh. I don't know. They're all really hard. Um, I think the hardest chapter that I wrote was dealing with when we have hard questions and when God does not answer us. The
Yeah.
title of the chapter is called When the Answer is No Answer.
Yeah.
And I use my son, who we've almost lost probably 5 or 6 times to asthma, asked me a couple of years ago, why is God allowing me to continually suffer?
Mm.
And it's like you, unless you have a chronically ill child, you do not understand what it's like to watch your kid almost die multiple times. And nurse him in the middle of the oh my gosh, it's gonna make me cry now. I could barely read this when I read the audiobook because Jude has just physically suffered more than anyone that I know.
Mhm.
And so that would be the hardest
Yeah.
one to write. Yeah.
Well, I want to go to the deeper question of God's justice, but I just have to say this as kind of a quick ADD side. But I remember you coming to the radio station in Dallas when we were doing our show together, and I'm pretty sure it was actual smoke coming out of your ears. And you were so mad, and you were talking about when you were going through the adoption process.
Okay.
Um, Eddie had to stay across state lines because they had to fill out paperwork to come
Oh,
across state lines. Now, yeah, I get it though. And a sheriff knocks on the hotel door and was questioning Eddie because Eddie's got this newborn baby checking into a hotel room, and I guess it just looked highly sus, and so as you were talking hedge of protection, I thought sometimes, and I think you even brought this up years ago as smoke, but I get it because he was trying to protect my baby.
hmm.
Do you want to talk about that for a second, or are we just out of time and want to move on?
I mean, it was one of those things where, there's laws where you can't bring it's called the ICPC law in adoption, where you actually can't cross state lines because basically the state, whatever state, I actually don't know if this is every state, but you can't bring the baby in until basically the state says, they can come in.
Yeah.
Otherwise you get in trouble. So we were abiding by the law until Texas was like, yes, come in. So my husband was, stayed with Haven, who was a couple days old, and she was teeny, teeny, tiny. And, I
Like
had
hot off the press, tiny. Like,
hot off
she
the
would
press,
go. Yeah.
they've obviously not been home from the hospital yet,
Yeah.
and we were making the best, and we had been warned about this. It's gonna be really hard. Make sure you have a plan. You will not be allowed to come to Texas. Well, I had another newborn at home with Moses, and I had 2 older kids. So we made the decision that Eddie would stay with Haven
Hmm.
as a little baby, and I would go home to Texas waiting for this law because it could take up to 10 days. And while he was staying with Haven, like nursing my newborn baby, like, holding her and feeding her and all this kind of stuff, he was staying in a place, and I guess the receptionist thought it looked weird. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
little black baby girl,
Newborn.
newborn, with my husband is not a small person, with a giant man.
And he had a big motorcycle beard at the time.
He still has a motorcycle
Yeah.
beard. But he gets this knock on the door, and it's a park ranger. They have a lot of power, park rangers.
Oh, they do. Yeah.
And they're basically like started to investigate him to see if he like stole Haven.
Still a baby. Yeah.
And I mean, I've never been more angry in my lifetime than when this guy showed up, and it wasn't his fault. He was actually super apologetic. Like, I'm so sorry. I do need to check your paperwork. I do need to check all this stuff. And obviously we had it all.
Yeah.
But someone had reported that basically they thought Eddie was kidnapping them. And so the park ranger was amazing. He was awesome. And, ended up saying, "Oh my gosh, everything checks out. I am so sorry. I know it's an emotional time, but yeah, that definitely happened. And yes, there was smoke coming on
Yeah,
from the
I
ears."
think the walls are still slightly singed from the smoke pouring from your ears. Okay, so but that leads to the next question. You know, the park ranger was in pursuit of justice.
Yeah.
Justice is not always fun. It's not always fair even.
Yeah.
You know, we go, "Well, that's not fair," but it's just, it's right. A lot of people get tripped up in the story of Job in their own life,
Hmm.
and they have a misunderstanding that our God is merciful, but
Hmm.
he's also just. Talk
Yeah.
about God's justice on them.
I think there's so many things. I love this chapter because I think when you've been betrayed or hurt or you're in ministry, especially people don't realize how betrayed pastors and ministers really are by their people. And as I looked through this section of Job, I knew justice was going to be something that I was definitely going to write about. And I want to get back to when God speaks, if we have just a couple of minutes to talk about that. But it says this in Job 42. Now, this is right before things were restored to Job. It says, it came about after the Lord had spoken these words to Job, which, by the way, it's the longest discord ever recorded from God to a human, is God's answer to Job.
So deep and beautiful.
38 chapters,
Mm.
and then God speaks, the longest that has ever been recorded that God speaks to a human. Anyway, he says, spoken to Job, that the Lord said to Eliphaz the Timnite, "My wrath is kindled against you and against your two friends, because you have not spoken of me what is right, as my servant Job had. Now, therefore, take for yourself 7 bulls, 7 rams, and go to my servant Job and offer up a burnt offering for yourselves. And my servant Job," I love this, "will pray for you, for I will accept him, so that I may not do with you according to your folly, because you have not spoken of me what is right, as my servant Job had." And then guess what? So they went and did what he said. That's not what it says, but that's me summing it up for you. This is one thing I want you to understand. God's eyes are on those who are against you. He sees. His eyes are on those conspiring against you. His eyes are on the motives of those that talk against you. His eyes are on it all. And the Bible tells us the Lord loves justice. And when I looked that up in the original language, this is what it said. It says, it means, "I am passionately in love with justice for my children."
Wow.
I am
Huh.
so I love my children so much that I am passionately in love. I am in love with justice for my children. Rick, when I read the definition of that, I couldn't even write for a couple of hours, because I thought,
Yeah.
Lord, when I would have given it up, you won't.
Yeah.
He will
Wow.
not
Yeah.
let it go until, this is why he says, "Vengeance is mine.
Mm.
I will repay. I got you." This is why he can say that, because he knows that his justice will bring about holistic justice. And when we want to speak out and get our own justice, it will only be partial justice. He is not okay with partial justice. He wants holistic justice for those who harm his children.
Mm. I've got about 100 more questions and just not enough time, but
Isn't that
uh,
good, Rick Walker?
it's the Autumn Miles show, and it's a little different. I'm moderating, just picking her brain on her new book, Holy Ghosted, available anywhere you can buy a book, and Amazon, etc. Every Holy Ghosted by Autumn Miles. I and remind me to tell you, there's a story you remind me of the Cliffy Shuffle. You and this whole book, but if you remind me, and I'll tell you what that means in a minute
Okay.
because
Okay.
it's just so profound to me. But you mentioned when God speaks, and
Mm-hmm.
part of this whole process,
Mm-hmm.
part of this whole frustration is the silence, the
Mm-hmm.
trials, the pain, going through our pain, having
Mm-hmm.
toxic words spoken by people we love dearly, feeling like God is gone.
Mm-hmm.
Why would God allow this? I don't know. And then finally, when God speaks,
Mm-hmm.
you'd said, I want to pick that up and address it. And I'm curious because during this season of silence, we lose a lot of good people.
Yeah.
A lot of people abandon the faith.
Mm-hmm.
They turn their back on God. They give up.
Mm-hmm.
But there is that day when God speaks. Let's deep dive into that. What does that mean, and how does that impact us in this situation?
One of the things that I just think is so beautiful about God is that he's not impatient. He's not a God that needs to step up and defend himself. I am that I am, is what he told Moses. I am that I am. No, I don't need to defend myself. I am that I am.
Right.
And I realized here Job is whining and he's complaining and he's grieving. And just PS, I hold none of that against him. I actually think it's incredibly healthy, the book of Job, to see how he processed. And I think we need to do more of that. But, when the three friends stopped talking, there was actually a fourth friend that was not condemned. When he stops, when Eliphaz, Zophar, Bildad, when they stop, when Job stops, there's silence. And in that silence, God takes his cue. A lot of times, God will wait until we've said it all, we've processed it all, we've got it all out, we've flushed through it all, and all of a sudden, I know you've probably been there, Rick. I know I've been there a lot of times. I don't have anything to say. I'm done speaking. And that's when God speaks in the book of Job. He knows that those pains were too deep for him to spar with Job. He needed to process it as much as he needed to. But when his spirit was silent himself, God took the stand. And I think after 38 chapters of absolute hell, that's what it is. If you're offended by the word hell, you know, it's a real place. It's hell on earth is what Job went through. Hell on earth. That's what he
Mhm.
lived. God steps up and this is so beautiful. Then the Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind. I talk about the word it's really geeky, this chapter. And Job when God speaks, because I just talk about the tense of the word that's used, the fact that he speaks out of the whirlwind, and he says this: who is this that darkens counsel by words without knowledge? Gird up your loins like a man, and I will ask you, and you will instruct me.
Hmm.
That seems so incredibly direct from the Lord, but God is making a point in this moment. Who is this man who speaks with words without knowledge? That tells me, especially after reading the entire text, that Job was speaking out of things that he did not understand. And then God starts talking to Job and asking him a bunch of questions. And sometimes I think we have a lot of questions for God, but let me ask you this question: is God allowed to question you?
Hmm.
Is God allowed to ask you personal things, or is that just reserved for us to blame God and us to be mad at God? Is God allowed to ask you questions like he asked Job, have you entered into the springs of the sea or walked in the recesses of the deep? Have the gates of death been revealed to you? Or have you seen the gates of deep darkness? Have you understood the expanse of the earth? Tell me if you know all this.
Mm.
We want to question God to death. And we want to leave if he doesn't reply the way we want him to reply. But is God allowed to question us? And in this moment, we see God using the behemoth and Leviathan. Behemoth, it was probably likened to something like a hippopotamus, like a giant monster that he had power over. But Leviathan, as he says, that he's the strongest creature that was ever created without fear, God says, and he controls it. So God is making a point. He answers out of the whirlwind, which we see his authority over all storms when he speaks from the storm. And then he starts showing Job how much authority he actually has. And this is Job's response as he stood there, a righteous man that had just gone through hell. He said, I know that you can do all things, 42, and that no purpose of yours can be thwarted. Who is this that hides counsel without knowledge? Therefore, and this is so beautiful, I think we have to get to this place when we go through things so hard. I have declared, he's confessing, I have declared that which I do not understand. I didn't understand this, he's saying. I didn't get how powerful you are. I'd only seen a piece of you. I didn't understand this is how good and how big and how awesome you are. I declared things and I didn't understand them. And then he says this, things too wonderful for me, which I did not know. And this is the place where I think everything just kind of makes sense. We have to reconcile that God is there's not even words to wrap around who God is. We just have to understand that there is a lot that we do not know. And Job got to this place where he was invited into a place in God throughout these couple of chapters that showed him this. I've heard of you by the hearing of the ear, but now my eye sees you. And something about what God said and projecting his authority and telling him all of these things and questioning Job made Job understand, oh my goodness, I am not dealing with an equal. I'm dealing with something that is so majestic. All I know and my soul wrapped in skin is that I just need to trust it. And peace entered his heart and it entered his dialogue.
Wow. Holy Ghosted. It's the Autumn Miles show. And Autumn, we didn't even get to questions, assumptions about God and
Yeah.
restoration and 100 different, and I didn't even get to my Cliffy, why this book and you remind me of the Cliffy Shuffle. Is there anything, I know we're getting really close on time, but do you want to address assumptions about God, restoration? You want me to address the Cliffy Shuffle? Where are we going?
No. Sorry. Rick, no, I'm sorry. That is so powerful to me. I need to know that I serve a God that's bigger than what I face.
Mm-hmm.
I need to know that I serve a God that even though I don't understand it, I don't understand him. He has written a story in heaven that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I just really feel right now that someone needs to be encouraged because they are facing something that is so drastic and tremendous and tragic. And they're at the point of surrendering their faith literally to Satan. And I'm just telling you, listen, invite God into that place.
Mm-hmm.
Invite God into that hurt. Invite him in, and he's going to speak to you in such an authoritative way. You know what? Job didn't need a hug. A hug would have done nothing.
Yeah.
Come here, let me give you a hug, a pat on the back. He didn't need that. He'd lost 10 of his kids.
Yeah.
You know what he needed? He needed a supernatural word from God that shook the core of his spirit.
Yeah.
You don't need a hug. There's something greater than that. You need a supernatural word, a rhema word that nothing can penetrate but it. And I think, Rick, just to sum it up, I know we're running out of time, that's my hope for this book. My God, get in the word. My God, let his word and his character and his spirit in. Don't keep him out. Let him in. And that's really my heart. Like, yes, we're going to go through these hard places. Yes, I understand. But when we give all that to the Lord, raw, unedited, unfiltered, unplastic, he can take it and he can hold it. We don't have to carry it anymore. And he may not restore life. He may not do that. But he will bring peace to walk through it. And that's what I would say.
So many bits of wisdom, aha moments. And I just want to say thank you for the opportunity. And just real quickly, you can look this up later, but the Cliffy Shuffle, he was a 61-year-old potato farmer and he stunned the athletic world. There was an ultra marathon. An ultra marathon is absolutely insane. It draws the most elite athletes around the world to basically go from, it was in Australia, from Brisbane to Sydney. It was a 500 plus mile run, ultra marathon. It's like running 3 marathons per day for 5 days straight. And this old potato farmer, he used to be a sheep farmer and he was a potato farmer, 61 years old. He enrolled in this and they weren't going to let him. They said, "Sir, this is for elite athletes only. And there's no way you can." And he literally said, "No, I want to try it." And nobody told him that the elite athletes, they would run for 18 hours and then they would rest for 6 hours, get massages, do sleeps, and then go right back to running. Well, he just kept going. Kept going. And the way he would run, his arms would dangle and he would just shuffle his feet. He never gave up. His hip got out of joint. He ran 500 miles. He shattered the world record, beat every elite athlete, and he was on the cover of Time magazine. And now ultra marathon runners, they take his method of running, the Cliffy Shuffle.
Wow.
And I look at Job, I look at your book, and I think, we go through pain, the dislocated hip, we go through the trauma, but you never give up because you look at the instruments of God's character, of the promises in his scripture, and you cling to that as you just breathe and take one foot and shuffle it in front of the other.
Yes.
What an inspiration you are to many. Thank you, Autumn, for allowing me to pick your brain on this book. What a blast we've had.
Thank Rick. Thank you for saying yes. Thank you for doing this.
My privilege. My privilege.
I'll be calling you for the next one.
Please do. I can't wait.
Thank you so much for saying yes. And thank you for, my first big break and just all that you've meant to me over the years and all the training and stuff that he taught me to do what I do. And I remember asking him at the end of every show, do I need to do anything better? What can I do? What can I fix? What can I fix? And you've always been so incredibly gracious and supportive to me. Even when I was like, should I do my own show? And you're like, I don't know. But thank you so much for that because you were definitely a piece in the puzzle for what I'm doing now. So thank you.
So proud of you and Eddie and what you're doing. God bless your ministry.
God bless you. Okay. I love you guys. You know that. And just go pick up the book, buy it for a friend, buy it for someone who needs it. It's my favorite one. It really is my favorite one. It was hard, but it's my favorite one. Go get it anywhere books are sold. Love you guys. I'll see you next week right here on the Autumn Miles Show.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Autumn Miles Show.